Safra Rav Abba. So Rav Safra did Rav Abba Kagon Ana Mi the Adina B'Kviyah the Archa. So he was an astronomer. So he had calculated the true calendar. So he knew that today is the 15th day of Nisan. He didn't need because he didn't. They knew through calculation which day is which, and therefore he b'yishuv lo avidna. When I live on the second day of Yontif, when I'm with other Jews in a city, so I don't do work with they shino machlokas because I don't want to go against what the tzibur is doing. But the question is, bamidbar mai. If I'm out in the desert without any other Jews, what's the halach? Amr le'achi amr Ravani, b'yishuv aser bamidbar mutter. In fact, if you are a person who knows the calendar well, and you know it's the second day of Yontif, if you're out in the midbar, you don't need to keep Isra Malach. Josh, I'm teaching Daf Yomi early today, so I'm teaching right. Rav Nosson Bar Asya also made Rav L'Pumpadisa B'Yom Tov Sheni Shal Atzeres. He traveled Chutz L'Tchum from the yeshiva of Rav to Pumpadisa, which is beyond the Tchum, on the second day of Shavuos. So because he knew the calendar, but the problem is it was in the Yishuv. So Shamte Rav Yosef put him into Cherem. Why didn't you give him Malchus? Putting him into Cherem is worse because the Bamarav in Eretz Yisrael, Mimnu and Gida, they would vote on whether or not to give somebody Malchus. The Bar Beirav, the Lo Mimnu Ashamta. For a Talmid Chacham who sinned, they would not vote for him to be put into Cherem. So you see, Cherem is worse for Talmid Chacham than Malchus. Ikedi Amri, Nagde. Other people say that no, they did give him Malchus, Rav Yosef. And Amrei Abaya, Nishamtim, why did you put him into Cherem? The Rav Shmuel Amar Tavayim Menarin Al Shtei Yomim Tovim Shel Goyos. That if on the second day of Yom Tov somebody does avoda, you put him into cherem. Armelei Anamili in Ishtal, that's a regular person. But Hachat Tzuv Rabbananu. This is a Talmid Chacham, the Tavalei Avdi. So you have to treat him more severely. The Marava Nimnu Anigasa, the Barbe Rav. There they would vote on giving Malchus to a Talmid Chacham. V'lo Nimnu Ashamta. So the Shulchan Aruch says like this. Av ki bnei Eretz Yisrael shabo l'chutz lo. Says like this: a bnei Eretz Yisrael who moves to Chutz La'aretz, but he plans to go back. So he is usher to do malacha on the second day of Yontif if he lives among people. That's the Radvaz. And vafilu b'tzina, even privately, he cannot do malach. Kivin shuminak sheposha b'chol hagola ein lahatir. And this is a custom that has spread everywhere, and therefore we should not be lenient, says the Magen Avraham. Now, michutz yishuv, like out in the desert, nohagim kiminag Eretz Yisrael, they can practice the minhag Eretz Yisrael, which is they can do malach on the second day. Umi she'ein daito la'asor. But if a person is moved permanently to America, outside of Eretz Yisrael, then he may not do malacha even out in the desert. So the Gemara goes back to the Gemara. Kayotze bo amalek perish is the Leslie Rav Yehuda Hadisnan. Does Rav Yehuda not hold to the following mission? It says Noisel av chomei hamakom shiyotzim shem chomei hamakom shalach l'sham. How could he be lenient? We're supposed to keep the stringencies of both places. Om Rav Shisha B'Rei Ravidi, Milsi Achrisi Kom Ravidi. Are you just saying something else? That we were talking about if you are in a place where the vegetables have left the fields now. There's no vegetables left for the wild animals to eat. That's when you have to burn or destroy all the perush shvius you have in your house. Up until then, you can be mishtamish with them, as long as there's stuff in the field. Now, we talked about what if you go from a place where the vegetables are gone to a place where the vegetables are still there. So Rav Yehuda said you can eat there. The Gemara is asking, well, I thought, what about you have to do the stringencies of both places? Yes, Sep? I'm teaching Talmud right now. Let me call you back in 5:30, okay? Okay. Amar of Shisha Brei Ravidi. Milse Achrisika Amar. He said something else. All mimakom shelo kalu. If you move from a city where the fruits are still in the field, l'makom shelo kalu, and you moved to a field where they're also still in the field, and then while you're in the new place, shama shekalu b'mkomo. He heard that in his city they ran out now. So the din is chayiv levayir. Tanakama says you have to, now is the time to destroy it. Rabbi Yehuda, I mean, no. Say va'avelecha afata mehecha de'isinu. Rabbi Yehuda said go and get from where it's still present, but v'halai kalaluhu. And in the locale where he's at, they're still there. So l'chora, Rabbi Yehuda is saying here, it's a leniency that he's allowed to eat even from his city, which it ran out. But since there's vegetables still in the field here, he can get them. So I understand. L'meimed Rabbi Yehuda l'kula kamar. Is Rabbi Yehuda teaching a leniency? V'am Rabbi Lazar lo am Rabbi Yehuda l'chumra. Rabbi Yehuda was teaching a stringency, not a kula. Ela epech. You have to switch, and you have to say like this. Tanakama says eino chayv l'vayir. That as long as there's fruit, as long as there's vegetables in the field, he doesn't have to destroy. Rabbi Yehuda says, but you came from a place where there's no stuff. So you also have to be mavayir, you have to destroy. So therefore, it's a chumrah. However, Abaya Amar la'olam kediktani, you don't have to change. You can say he left from a city where the fruits were still in this field, and he came to a city where the fruits are gone. And then he went back to his original city, and the vegetables are still there. The Tanakama says he doesn't have to destroy because it's still there. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, no, you have to get it from your original city, and they're not there anymore, so you do not, and so you have to be mavayir. Maskar Vash Rabbi Yehuda, Otu Agabe the Charma Kaltinu. Just because he's moving his fruit on the back of a donkey from a place where the vegetables are gone, he just bought them there, and they don't eat them there. So there should be an isser now that he's come to a new place. Elam Ravashi really beplukta dare tanoi. They're arguing in the following machlokes tanoi. This now. Hakoivesh shloisha kvoshim b'chavis achas. He's pickling vegetables, olives, cucumbers, cabbage in a barrel. 3 types of different vegetables. Eliezer Omer oichlin ala rishon. As long as the first species that you put into the barrel, those vegetables are still in the field, you can eat. But once it's gone away, you have to destroy everything because there's a mixture between that which is permitted because there's still some vegetables out in the field, and one of the species, there are no vegetables in the field. So there's a mixture of mutter and isser, and you got to get rid of it. Rabbi Yeshua Omer Af ala achroin. You're allowed to eat from the whole barrel until the last species is gone from the sadeh. Rabbi Gamliel Omer, Kol shekol aminu min hasadeh, if the specific species, let's say olives are gone, yaver mino min hachavis, then you have to go through the barrel and pick out all the olives, but you can leave the other ones in there. The halacha kedvarav. But Ravina Amar bepluktu dehani tanoi. That Rav Yudah and the Chacham are arguing in a different machlokes tanoi. This not. Oichlin b'tmorim ad sheyichla achron shebitzoar. You can eat dates as long as they're still present, even as far as Tzoar, which is on the border at the end of where Judea stops. And because they ripen slowest. But you can eat as long as even in one place, it's still present. Rab Shimon Gamliel Oimer, Oichlin al shel ben akipin, as long as there's dates that are falling from the tree and they're getting stuck high up on the leaves, you can continue eating in your house. However, ein oichlin al shel ben ashitzin. The shitzin are like the thorns. Now, the animals can't get them from there. It's too thorny. So it's got to be accessible to the animals. So as long as there's some capability of an animal getting it, then you're mutter. But the other sheet, like Rav Yehuda, that if everyone can't get it, then you're chayiv levayah. Tanan Hasam, the land of Israel is divided into three different lands. Sholos Artsois Labir. Yehuda, Judea, Ever HaYarden, the other side of the Jordan, the Galil. V'shalosh Artsois B'chalachas V'yachas. Each one of those places has a valley, a mountain, and a plain. So actually you have 9 different regions, the 3 geographic divisions in each land. Lama amru shalosh artzos labir. You don't have to, if you're living in Judea, you don't have to care what's going on in Galil. In Judea, you eat until the last vegetable in Judea has gone away. But the people in Judea don't have to worry about Ever HaYarden. They're different geographic regions that are not affected by each other. Not immediately. How do you know this? Amar Rav Chava bar Ukva, Amar Yehuda bar Chayam Kra, v'levemtecha v'lechaya asher bartzecha, kolzman shechaya socheles min hasadeh. As long as the wild animals can eat from the field, hey ochel behem asher b'bayis, you can use the foods that you've gathered in your house to feed your domesticated animals. Once the vegetables in the field are gone and the wild animals cannot eat it, then you have to destroy. You've gathered all this stuff into your house, but you can't use it anymore because you have a chi of beer. Ugmiri, there's a Mesor Dein Chai Shebehuda Gedela Al Perish Shebegalim. Right? The wild animals in Judea don't eat the fruits of the Galil. Dein Chai Shebegalil Gedela Al Perish Shebehuda. Each one is unique to the area that they came from. Fruit that left Eretz Yisrael went to Chutz La'aretz. And then the Zman Beer came because there's no more vegetables in the field. You don't have to bring the fruits back to Eretz Yisrael to burn it. You can burn it wherever you are. The Gemara says, "Ha'afikte." You already used ba'artzacha for the limit above. Kari be ba'aretz ba'artzacha. So the Torah could have written ba'aretz. By saying ba'artzacha, you learn ba. Inami may asher ba'artzacha, which asher is an extra word. Rav Safrek Nafak me Eretz Yisrael Chutz La'aretz. Rav Nafak traveled from Eretz Yisrael Chutz La'aretz. He had jugs of wine that was produced during the Shemitah year. Ravuna and Rav Kahana were escorting him. Amr Lahu, he said to them, have you heard anything when Rav Avo said that halach Rav Shimon ben Elazar olo? Is the halach of Rav Shimon ben Elazar whether, because Rav Shimon said Yachzru l'mkom v'yizbaru. Rav Shimon ben Elazar said you have to go back to Eretz Yisrael and burn it. So he wanted to know, did you hear whether the halach was like him or not? Amr Rav Kahana, Achyam Rav Avo, halach Rav Shimon ben Elazar, you have to go back to Eretz Yisrael to burn it. Amr lei Rav Huna b'rei Ravika, Achyam Rav Avo, ein halach Rav Shimon ben Elazar. A different version said the halacha was not like him. Amr Rav Safra nekad haklalo de Ravuna biyadcha. Whatever you do, take the following principle of Ravuna in your hand. The daik v'gomer shmaitim mepum de Rabbi kirachla kipupum bedisa. He was very careful in repeating what he heard from the right mouth of his Rebbe. The Amar Rachva Amar Rav Yehuda Harabayis Stav Kofel Haya. There was a double colonnade surrounding Harabayis. Stav liftim stav, and that's an example of the kind of exact Mesorah was given in the name of a Chava. Kari ale Rav Yosef Ami be'etzu yishal umaklu yagid lo kol amekel lo magid lo. If you're only going to listen to the Das HaMekel, if he's listening, you have to be careful about listening to that. So, the halacha in the Rambam says, Peros Shviyas, right? The Peros Shviyas Shiyotzu Meretz Yisrael Chutz La'aretz. Mizbar b'mkom shein halach. The halacha is not like you can burn it in Los Angeles. If you took fruits or vegetables from Eretz Yisrael, at the time that you're supposed to destroy them, you can destroy them in Los Angeles. Rabbi Loi katz kafnisa de shviyas. Rabbi Loi chopped down a date tree during the Shemitah year. There's fruits in the Shemitah you've been giving you to eat. And not to destroy. It's also to be mafsid per shviyas. And you can only use them. Can't use them for lumber. You have to use them for eating. So how can he do it? Because maybe the prohibition is because if he wants the fruits. Or, no, I'm sorry. These were very unripe fruits. So that's if the fruit tree already has fruits that have been magia to the point of being fruits. But if it has not reached the level of a pre, maybe there's no isser. Hani mitachle de orla asiri. Those sort of coverings of fruit of a palm during the orla are usher to eat like other fruits of orla. We don't treat them like the bark of the eights, where you're allowed to eat that as orla, even though they're not roy lachila. So Rav Nachman is passing that these early fruits of this dekel, this palm, are considered fruit. Hoil v'nasu shomer leperi. It's not really a fruit; it becomes like a peel to the fruit. But that appeal to the fruit is considered like the fruit, right? V'shomer lepir emes hava. The kufri. That's even though the dates are at an early stage of ripening. Yet kokori le'leperi. Yet they're called fruit. So again, how could Rabbi Lloyd cut down a fruit tree on Shemitah? Nachman Amar Kor Yossi, it's not. Rabbi Yossi Omer, smador, very small, unripe fruits, also neshu peri. They're going to vary, but They're still aser mishum orla because they're fruit. Uplik rabbanale. But the rabbanon argue and says only when the fruit is reached to a level where it's ripe, but not before that. Does the Chacham argue that Rabbi Yossi Bayadu treat vatnan? When do we start having a prohibition of cutting down these trees during Shemitah? Kol ha'ilonos mishiyotziu. Once you see any about a fruit budding, then there's an issue. Beis Hillel depends. Hecharuvin mishiyarshurshu. Carob tree, once they root. Hagefanim mishiyagriu. We have to grow a little bit, and then there'll be a different shear for the different fruits that we'll talk about. Okay.
Good job.